If a stranger broke into your home, attacked and raped you, could you ever forgive him? That is what our next guest, Rosalyn Boyce, did. After living in fear of her attacker for 15 years, she decided to retake control of her life by meeting him in prison, face to face, where, incredibly, she told him that she forgave him. Rosalyn, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it must be incredibly difficult to sit here in front of an audience in a TV studio, but thank you for coming in today. The main question, I suppose, that people must ask you is, why would you do something like that?
I think there are several reasons, but to keep it fairly brief, he was coming up for parole. I'd had 15 years of various types of suffering. I've got 2 girls. I didn't want it to carry on. I didn't want the cycle to carry on. And I knew that the only way that I was going to get any answers was to look him in the eye. So that's what I did it,
And I'm sorry, I mean, it's 15
fine.
years ago.
Yeah.
But
It's fine.
Reading your story, just to briefly give people a sort of an inkling as to what happened, it was a normal night that many of us can relate to. You'd put your daughter to bed, your husband was out, your other daughter was asleep over, ran a bath, and then the landing light flickered and there was a stranger in your landing. Obviously what happened to you was horrific and unimaginable. Why did you then the next day decide just to cope that everything was fine, still hold your daughter's birthday party and carry on as normal? Was that what you thought was the best thing to do, just to pretend it hadn't happened?
Well, because it was my daughter's birthday party and we didn't have it in the house. The house was cordoned off by forensics. So I think I just called upon some neighbours and said, can you come and help me out? I need to still do this. And the children were young enough for us to, at that stage, not to know what had happened. So I just wanted everything to be normal, but of course it wasn't normal.
And how long did it take until it actually hit you?
Probably that evening, yeah.
And tell us about what happened when you finally came face to face with him. What was the situation?
Well, there were quite a few months leading up to the meeting. We had to have a lot of preparation through restorative justice. On the actual day, I found out that he'd tried to hang himself 5 days previously, so that was quite difficult. But the meeting everyone decided it should go ahead, and when he actually walked into the room, I was sat down before him and he was surprised that I'd been so frightened of someone for 15 years and here I was facing him. It took him a long time to look me in the eye, understandably, really. He was looking at the floor, he was very nervous, and eventually, though, when he talked about the first time that we made initial eye contact, he looked up and he looked at me in the eye, and I didn't really take my gaze off him for about 3 hours.
What was the most important thing for you that you were able to say to him in that 3 hours?
Really, that I'm no longer afraid of him, and that I forgive him, and that I wanted to negotiate a way forward because I couldn't see any purpose in there being any harm for him or his family or me or my family. Or if you think about he's got other victims, the other victims, and so on and so forth, you know, so I had the opportunity to say everything that I wanted to and needed to say to him.
And his response, was it what you expected?
I didn't have, if I'm really honest, because of the nature of it, I told myself not to have any expectation. Right. Because if I'd have gone in there, I could have got disappointed, further disappointed, so I didn't go in with any expectation.
And how did he react, if you don't mind saying?
No, it's okay. He found it very difficult to speak. He was asked to tell his version of events leading up to the attack, not the actual attack. When I told him that I forgive him, he did talk a lot about his own violence and his background and so on and so forth. When I told him that I forgive him, he broke down and cried. And he said that he'd rather that I punched him in the face rather than forgive him.
See, you've forgiven him, which is an incredible thing to do. How do you feel about the justice system? Because the one thing that leapt out at me about your story was that he had done this before.
Yes.
And he had been halfway through his prison sentence when he was released, and then he attacked you.
Yeah, well, I could spend all day telling you about how I feel about that. What I'm trying or have tried to avoid as much as I possibly can is that if he does come out, he doesn't harm anybody else, and I told him that, including himself. He shouldn't he should not be, if it's deemed that he's not capable of coming out and doing that, then he shouldn't be released. I don't want anyone else to go through what I've been through and what my family have been through.
And what about you? How have you felt since that moment that you did it?
Free. Yeah, free.
Have your family noticed a difference in you?
That's been the main thing. I think I've carried on fairly as normal, but they've all, without exception, turned around and said, you're just like a different person. And I'm sort of like, what do you mean? I'm just the same person.
There's
and
a
they're like,
lightness
no.
about you now, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
It's taken a long time, though, hasn't it? And there's been a lot of collateral damage. Your marriage broke down, didn't it? Because your husband, which is a very common reaction, isn't it? That he couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, and I could never hold any blame against anyone or anything for that. You know, that's just, that's being a victim of circumstance. I'm not the only victim. There's a whole series of people that this has affected, and unfortunately it was him.